Okay, good. We got Tricia here from Australia
Baba.
and Judy from Seattle. Wow, we're ranging wide and far. Um,
Jeff, Jeff, I have a request before you get to your real topic. For those of us far away from Myrtle Beach, how is the center doing post
yeah,
Hurricane Ian?
it was actually, I mean, a lot of leaves and, small branches, but really not too much. A few large trees, but, it was a mess, but it could be raked up.
And
So, yeah,
the water didn't, like one hurricane years ago, the salt water went into the freshwater lakes
yeah,
and killed a lot of the ecology,
yeah,
etc., the fish and so forth. That didn't happen this time.
no, no.
Thank you,
No,
Baba.
we were locked in. But Goer has, she took a few blows.
Yes, we
Oh,
certainly did. Yeah, we have two homes on the island of Captiva, and those took a little bit of a brunt of the hurricane. And we just got an update today from the management company, and we have some significant repairs to do, but thank Baba, it was not more than that. So the houses are still standing and
Uh-huh.
they're very intact. So we're blessed with that. So,
Good.
where
but
where are they located in Canada? I assume.
no, on the island of Captiva.
Where is that in the world?
It's right outside of Fort Myers.
In Florida.
Yes, in Florida. Right.
I'm
Right where the eye went over. So we were very close to where the eye went over. Yeah.
well
So,
So,
fortunate
Jaysima,
that they're
can
standing.
you
yes,
post
they
that?
are.
We go here. Is that where the Navy SEALs used to train?
I'm not sure about that.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. I guess Trisha just stepped out of the room. Trisha, are you there? Well, let's have Goer. She's lost the most. How about reading that?
Sure. Um, the masculine and feminine in us. Dear folks of Baba, the terms masculine and feminine can easily evoke a gender conflict, but Baba asserts that both of these qualities are in each one of us. If our identification with the gender of our body is too strong, that is, if we identify as strictly male, then the feminine qualities in us get repressed. The same is true for the feminine. Baba says when both the masculine and feminine are fully developed in us, we are approaching realization. What are the qualities associated with the masculine and feminine? Baba says broadly that the masculine in us excels in qualities of head and will, and the feminine in qualities of the heart. One who balances both qualities in himself or herself will have a more integrated experience of oneself. Speaking very simplistically, the masculine in us is generally considered assertive and goal oriented, while the feminine is receptive and relationship oriented. The masculine relies, in Baba's words, on the mind with its sound judgment, steadfast purpose, and willpower. The feminine on the heart with its feelings, empathy, and intuitions. They are capable of intense love, devotion, and any sacrifice. Paradoxically, it is possible for a woman to be a very masculine and a man to be quite feminine. Neither gender has a monopoly on the masculine and feminine. How do these qualities play out in you? Have you seen Baba develop the qualities in you that are usually considered the opposite of your gender? Have you found that because of the outer stereotypical and cultural definitions and restrictions of gender, the process of balancing the masculine and feminine within has been more challenging and difficult? Due to pressure or even fear from society, sometimes our usual gender qualities may be repressed in us. An effort has to be made to balance these qualities within. While seeking this balance, Baba says in the case of a man that he tries to understand a woman not through the eyes of the male, but through an imaginative reaching out toward what the woman feels herself to be in her own personal experience. The same is true for women. Over recent decades, there seem to be two concurrent paths: the traditional stereotypical male and female gender roles alongside growing trends of individual expression. In what ways do you see variations on the traditional stereotypes? What looks and behaviors would have been unheard of just a few decades ago? Could this in any way be moving toward balancing out the attributes that Baba refers to? Could it be that the current questioning and expression of gender today is the soul's attempt to balance the masculine and feminine qualities within? Have you been affected adversely by the stereotypical definition of your gender? In what ways? How does the societal culture of your country play into the experience of your gender? Could Baba be making an invaluable distinction between masculine and feminine attributes rather than the more limiting male and female genders? In that case, is there more room for acceptable overlap? For example, a strong-minded take-charge woman or a shy devotional man? Haven't we already begun loosening the ways we see others? What role does detachment from gender play in balancing out our inner nature? Again, with valuable help from others, in his love, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. You know, being around the mandali, they were very balanced in their masculine and feminine. Erich was very strong, but he was very empathetic. Sometimes I actually felt he knew myself better than I did. And Mani, you know, was very strong. She was the chairman of the trust and everything, but she was very playful and fun-loving. And the women mandali, I felt they were very loving and caring, but they could hold their ground. You know, they were very strong. I mean, Baba had made them strong in a way that is different from some of the stereotypes. And then you say there's Balkalchuri, who was, in a way, very feeling person. He might have been a little over on the feminine side as far as his expression. And Adi Keirani, he was very masculine, but he really cared about people and listened to their problems and made all this effort. And so it's amazing how Baba, you know, trained his mandali in these ways. So, and it's interesting that Baba, rather than getting an outer conflict between the genders, he brings it inside into our own psyche, how to balance those things out. So I open it up to whoever wants to talk about their experience. Oh, hey, there's Ferishte.
Hi, Jeff. Hey,
yeah,
Baba.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
know who's next to me?
I can't
Troublemaker
quite.
Kim.
Oh,
I
okay,
know, we
good.
got to turn some lights
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
We're just
So,
coming back from eating Indian food, so sorry.
yeah. So anyone wants to go forward and share a little bit of their experience? I know it's a hard one. It's a hard one to. I thought, well, what am I going to say about this? But okay, good, Tony.
Yeah, I'll jump in. It's I've done a lot of work with some of the models that Carl Jung developed along these lines, where he talks about the feminine within a man as the anima, and the masculine with a woman he calls the animus, and the other inner dynamic is what he called the shadow, which is stuff that you've repressed from your conscious experience, whether good or bad. And but way before I read any of that, Baba kind of took this in hand with me. Um, I fell in love with a woman when I was 18, Baba lover, and you know what happens before you've begun integrating these qualities, you project them on someone else. And so I experienced in this woman, especially in a Baba context, all the most sublime, loving, um, feminine qualities we associate with women, but loving qualities. And then after several months, it just ended, and she married some friend of ours. And I was having, for those who know astrology, I had Pluto on my Venus, which means your experience of love is going to be totally transformed. And that's what happened. I mean, basically, it began a lifetime process of owning that what I saw in her is actually very much alive in me. They were almost divine qualities of love, and the male and female are both divine qualities in their essence. So it's been an interesting adventure, and you'll often find in your dreams can be helpful with this because they reveal aspects of those parts. But I guess there's so much else to talk about. But uh, the other thing that came to mind is that one can one needs to have balance. So you're not if you're a man, you're not becoming a woman. Remaining a man with fully owning those qualities that we associate with women. And on the other hand, socially speaking, maintaining the consciousness that women's experience now, I'm speaking as a man, women's experience in our culture and in our time is so specific. And it's not so much about the qualities of divine male and divine female energies, but it's cultural suppression, cultural rejection, domination, all sorts of stuff. And it calls, in its way, it also calls on men to experience profound empathy and to try and really grasp that experience. And for women, it calls for this bold and dynamic response. And it's happening, especially right now. I guess that's it. This could talk
Yeah,
about this for hours.
beautiful. Yeah, said beautifully, Tony.
Yeah. Thank you.
Margie.
Hi, J Baba all. So it's so funny that this subject is brought up. So in my work, I work as a healer, and so a lot of that is healing someone's inner child, which is generally the narcissistic aspect of their personality that is keeping them from being able to realize that they are the divine reality. It's this limiting belief. And so the first place I always go is healing the mother and the father wounds. And what I've found in this work is with men and women, it's all the same. There is healing can only begin when you heal the mother wound. And now I'm talking healing, like spiritual healing. Like I'm not talking like, oh, I fixed some patterns of psychology or something like that. I'm talking about soul healing, where they realize that they have everything inside of them. And so a lot of people I work with are not Baba lovers, but they might use the word the universe or source or whatever it is, it's all the same, And what I see in them is because our mothers are so connected to us, we actually end up identifying our feminine with our mothers entirely. And so if there's wounding there or there's trouble there, then we shut off that part of ourselves. So, maybe our mothers were overly emotional. And so we deem that as weak, or we take after that, or, you know, whatever it is. But I really feel that Baba puts our mothers in our lives as the piece that we have to heal. You know, she is, you know, people grow up hating their mothers, or they don't fulfill a role or whatever. And it's really only because it's a part of our soul that needs to be healed to rebalance that feminine. And then after you've healed the feminine, or, you know, started to heal the feminine, I should say, there's this balance and acceptance of it for men and women alike, that because the feminine represents our internal emotional worlds, and feminine energy is like so chaotic. That's what I see in people. It's like they're able to sit more in this chaos of emotion, and then they're able to go to the masculine side of themselves, which is like healing their relationship with their fathers, and access the masculine with complete and total acceptance. And then together, it's almost like what I see is like masculine energy is like an arrow, and feminine energy is like this circular kind of chaotic just being. But when they are able to heal that relationship, the masculine energy of them is able to make sense of the feminine sort of chaotic emotional energy. And then what they can do is they can pull these insights of God. And I see them connecting, wow, like I have, you know, I mean, for me, it's Baba, and for all of us, it's Baba, but for them, it's Source or whatever. But it's so interesting that you say this, because I had a whole support group today on feminine energy and the mother wound. But that's all I've got.
Yeah, beautiful. That's another whole way of looking at it. Yeah, excellent.
Risha.
Oh, you're muted, I think.
As everyone was talking about this and the reading, my mind just went to past lives. I mean, I feel like women who have a strong understanding of men and an admiration of men have been a man often enough to recognize the qualities, and vice versa with men who really appreciate women and understand them. It's because they've had many lives as a woman, and I think that grows as you grow towards God and have the experience of life of being either gender. And I personally just really admire all the qualities of manhood and how clever they are and how they can do all these wonderful masculine things that I can't do. Yeah, so it's kind of appreciation. Yeah, through experience.
I know. Sometimes, if you feel a polarity with the opposite gender, then there's some stuff that needs to be worked out. If they seem like you're kind of threatened by the opposite gender, then there needs to be some work done, so they become familiar rather than an unknown, so to speak. Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in here? It's a difficult topic, I would say. Let's see. Well, Rainey, you probably got some thoughts. Or maybe Francis Brabazon, he's written some beautiful things in that regard.
Well, I could read something funny.
Good.
I'm a bit chipped at the moment, but I'm doing okay. The creation habit. Creation is a woman. Everybody knows. Gives God a lot, Franny. Creation is a woman. Everybody knows. She gives God a lot of trouble. You'd wonder why he chose to have her around. Why did he choose to have her around? Must because he likes her. Thinks she's mighty fine. Must be because he needs her for the old production line to keep things going and the business sound. Maybe because she is a woman, he never knows how she's going to blow. Keeps God ever guessing and always on his toes. Maybe that is what he has found. Maybe because she's a woman and knows just how to please, that's when she's not fussing or gone into deep freeze or to Everest Peak or even underground. But sure, God loves creation. Look at all the children there are, all us men and women and the most distant star, and he likes having her around.
Beautiful. Yeah. And there's some other things if it occurs to you that he has said.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Rosalie?
Jay Baba, I've been involved in reading books, reading Mara Mayher, because I just love those books. I love the intimacy of those books. Anyway, this week there were 2 men and 2 women in the reading group of this Mara Mayher, and I was just so touched. I could really actually feel the men's this incredible and beautiful receptivity to wanting to know about Mara. I've never experienced that before in the reading group, but because there were so few people too, it was just almost palpable or something, and it was very touching. It really kind of brought tears to my eyes that they were just really wanting to know, because I remember in being around Mara, which I love to be around Mara in India, I almost felt like more fear from men, or not comfortable around her. That was my feeling of it. Anyway, it was very nice to know that it's almost like an awakening of sort.
Yeah.
Hey, Baba.
Yeah. Wow. Anyone else? Judy, anything that comes to mind for you? You can pass too. No.
Actually, I was in a listening mood tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, you mentioned Mani, who is an excellent example of a very strong woman, and a woman who was also incredibly sensitive and insightful and all of the feminine qualities. But she had, as chairman of the trust, she had this inner strength, and I found her absolutely delightful and insightful and amazing to interact with or watch or just be around, because she simultaneously sort of could do almost anything and switch to it very, very quickly, from something that required deep sensitivity and kindness to somebody that needed to be put, right about something that Baba had said that that person wasn't doing quite the way that Baba had indicated. And anyway, those are the thoughts that are coming to my heart, in the sense of combining. And I I have a view from the feminine side, you know, being embodied as a woman. And actually I feel like most of my qualities as in what you had written, Jeff, tend to be on the feminine side with, you know, some strength there as well. But to me, just off, Mara was like pure womanhood to me, pure femininity and purity and so forth. But Mani actually, to my eyes and heart, combined the strength and ability of men, of the masculine side, with the sensitivity and love and compassion of the woman.
Yeah, I meant to mention Mara because she was an embodiment of the feminine, just completely focused on Baba. But when Baba got in that accident in 1952, Baba said she took on half of the suffering. And Baba said about the mandali, they could only take on a fraction of his suffering. And there Mara took on half of it. And that's like a great strength that's kind of hidden way below the surface. Yeah.
And my sense of what that meant for Baba was even that much more suffering that he allowed his beloved Mara to take on that suffering.
Yeah.
Because as he wouldn't want it himself. He would want to protect her and always wanted her to be happy and have whatever she needed. So it must have been so hard for him to do even that for the sake of his universal work that he was doing.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful.
Dina.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of young people are now declaring themselves non-binary, and they don't identify with either sex. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Anybody want to answer that? Well, I'll say this that Bob explains this in I can't remember what book it's in. Maybe it's in God Speaks or Listen Humanity, where Bob says you have a number of lifetimes as a man and everything where you're attracted to women. And then when you get your first feminine form, sometimes you're still attracted to women. So you have a lesbian life. And then coming from the other way, you have a series of female incarnations where you're attracted to men, and you get your first male form and you're attracted to men. So that's a natural process. And some of these people are probably, experiencing some of that, where the gender is a little bit not as defined as it was growing up in the 50s and 60s.
But they don't want to be identified as any particular gender.
Yeah. Yeah. Genderless.
Yeah.
But the thing is, those masculine and feminine qualities are there. That's why I'm so glad that Baba brought it down to the individual. How you want to identify to the world is one thing, but what the kind of work that you're doing in yourself to balancing and developing those qualities is that's something important. That's the major focus. Okay.
Roxy.
I wonder, Jeff, you picked this topic because of what is happening in Iran, or what is the deal with women uprising for 43 years they have been suppressed, oppressed,
Oh,
and now
horrible.
they're fighting like a man outside in the streets. And so I wanted to talk. I shared a long thing that I found on Beams, and I wanted to first of all apologize for posting it in the chat. But I thought that that helps a lot on understanding a lot of the what we see as our opposites is truly illusion, and we all are one. And ultimately, I see that like the DNA picture, we will vacillate between being very, very male and very, very female, and until we rise up and become one with the source, as Tina said, we may become. This is my understanding. I'm not saying it is what it is, but as we become one. We become non-binary, as many of the kids nowadays are claiming. So just wanted to thank you for bringing up this topic.
Do you have that passage from the Beams? From
Yeah,
Beams?
I posted it on the chat. It's a long.
Well, how about reading it out?
It's from page 62, and it says, evolutionary illusion or illusory evolution has to proceed through apparently incompatible opposites, such as pleasure and pain, vice and virtue, success and failure. Of the many pairs of opposites, the pair which needs special mention and consideration is that of man and woman. Male and female human forms are rightly described as opposite sexes. Progressive realization of the adequate forms, the continuation of this species, and the onward march of the incarnated life stream are dependent upon the opposition and interplay of the sexes, particularly at the higher phases of biological evolution. This is equally true of psychological and spiritual evolution, as long as it is held up in the domain of illusion. The opposition of sexes and the alternative attempts to overcome or reconcile these opposites are admittedly a source of inspiration, sublimation, and exasperation, which haunt the interplay of sex opposites at the psychic level until they are withstood or understood fully and adequately. One special feature of the opposite sexes is that while remaining in counterbalancing opposition to each other, they are more patently and firmly tethered to each other than many other opposites. A man who is conscious of himself as a male is at the same time conscious of woman as a female, and the tension of the felt duality is on him a constant burden, which he often invisibly passes on to a member of the opposite sex. The same is true of a woman who's particularly conscious of herself as a female. The opposites create and sustain a burdensome illusion which is transferred to each other. And if this illusion is shared by both, it goes on increasing in geometrical proportions instead of being mitigated in any way. On the other hand, this burdening of the illusory and oppositional duality of sexes is also self-communicative. Understanding, then, love is gradually freed from the tinge of differentiative sex consciousness, and understanding is lifted out of the obsessiveness of one of the most oppressive forms of duality. So informative, wasn't it?
Yeah, boy, that tells it as it is.
It is, yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxy, for finding that.
No, J Baba, that's fine. I was reading it recently, that's why.
Yeah, and in Iran, I mean, look at what a situation there. That's the extreme opposites.
I wanted to also share, I attended the demonstrations yesterday, and wherever they were saying death to someone, I repeated Baba's name. I just said Baba, Baba, Baba. And then when they were saying freedom for women, I just continued. So just so you know, I wasn't being, I didn't wish death on anyone.
Yeah.
Yay, Baba, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Roxy.
Margie.
Hi. So I just wanted to share an experience that I had at the youth Sahavas. So I was a counselor this year. And so many, I would say a large majority of the campers were either gender fluid or non-binary or identify, had used some of their pronouns. And so I had this camper who I was particularly close with and built a really sweet relationship with. And they identify, or at the beginning of Sahavas, we create name tags, and you have to write on your name tag what your pronouns are and so what you want to be identified as. And this camper had written he, him on their name tag. And I remember I was talking to them and I accidentally used, go ahead.
This is a woman, right? This is one of the girls. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I had accidentally used, just out of habit, she, her pronouns when referring to them. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But can I just ask you, that's a really big thing to know about yourself at," I think she was 15, I believe. And so I was just asking out of curiosity, because for me, I would say I'm very much in the feminine. I identify as feminine, and I've never had that question. And so I think for a 15-year-old kid, that's a big thing to come to terms with. And what they said blew me away, that I was like, wow, these kids are so beyond even the people I grew up with, which is only a generation behind them. But they looked at me and they just said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Gender's all the same." And with the capacity in which they understood that was so clear. It was like, I feel like people in my generation, if they do identify as gender fluid, they're very, very defensive if you call them the wrong thing. They're like, "How dare you call me the wrong thing? This is how I identify." But there was this compassion and grace that this 15-year-old girl had, where they weren't insulted that I called her, said her or she, because they identified with their feminine just as much as their masculine, and it didn't matter to them. They just saw themselves as a loving being. And I found it so interesting and such a new, beautiful perspective that I don't think I would have ever gotten to without their help.
Beautiful. Yeah, and that's kind of the coming generation, quite a different approach to this whole thing.
Yeah.
I tend to use the word they. Yeah.
Ina?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say that maybe I'm mired in the feminine, but I don't relate well to most men. And because, not you guys, because you're evolved men, and Baba has worked on you. But a lot of them are obsessed with sports and cars, and they talk all about themselves and never ask me anything about myself. And it's just very off-putting, because I happen to hate sports and cars and politics and the things they like to talk about. And it's a dilemma for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's you're not going to be able to change them either,
No.
unless they kind of get tuned into the inner dimension of things. Yeah.
Anybody have any comments about these things?
Well, let's add.
Or struck by lightning.
What?
I just thought, or struck by lightning.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, just taking a little poll here before we turn to Renee. What what do you women feel about most men? Just anyone want to chime in?
I think they're not you guys. I'm not including you guys, but I think they're chauvinistic, and they think it's all about them, and um, it's very off-putting.
Yeah. Tricia, you want to respond? You're
Me?
yeah. You're muted.
It's good that Tina wasn't raised in Australia because it's a lot worse over here.
I'm
But
sure it is.
I just want to share with you, but when I moved to America after I married Jim, I just loved the men over there because they actually asked my opinion on things, which didn't happen here in Australia. As a general rule, like, I mean, there was definitely, a tribe that does, but the bigger tribes did not approach a woman for her opinion. And I just thought, I loved American men, especially Californian men, fantastic.
Yeah.
I just want to give that little bit of balance there to the conversation.
Good, Tricia. Well, Marion, are you responding to that question about men?
No, so I can wait and
Yeah, okay.
can wait.
I would like to say that too, coming to California, I found it phenomenal that men wanted to be friends.
Yes.
And they could even ask you to coffee when you're married to be friends. That could never happen where I came from. There was always a reason, there was always allurement of some sort that just was completely new to me, which I loved, really loved. And I have lots of friends especially throughout my 2 American marriages, and friends with my husband, but they're close friends of mine. I still have lots of male friends.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's interesting because Sonoba wrote there about India.
Oh, yeah. Very chauvinistic.
Yeah, it's it's
I
very
don't
sad.
think a lot of men realize what it is to be a woman and to feel like you're just a second sex.
Yeah.
And like you're less than.
Yeah.
And it's very degrading.
Yeah. Yeah, just like racism. Okay, let's... Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Dinku. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that the present generation, there's more and more of them are accepting of the female and male, the chauvinistic part has decreased a lot as compared to, say, our generation, where the dominance and, what I say goes kind of stuff is there all the time. But it's, for example, like they take part in rearing their kids and stuff like that. So they're more balanced in that sense.
Oh, that's progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been observing here, at least amongst the few that, not the few, the people that I've come in contact with the younger generation and the our generation.
Where are you, Dinku?
Mumbai.
You're in Mumbai.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of people are coming from Bombay to Mehrabad, Mumbai to Mehrabad. A lot of the younger generation, and they really seem to be liberated from a lot of the stereotypes. The younger people, mainly younger people. Now, let's go for Rainey there.
Rainy.
Oop, you're muted.
Sorry. It might be interesting for people to hear about this young woman of 42 that I live with, who says, I've asked her, are you a girl? Of course I'm a girl. Franny, I don't wear dresses or anything, but you're a girl? I'm a girl. And yet, Franny would be called, and this is what I call her on purpose, a tomboy. When I went to school, there were girls and there were tomboys, some rounders.
You're breaking up, Rainey.
Everything. There, I can see that it's unstable. Is that better?
Yeah, good.
Probably got too many devices on in here. But anyway, I could dress her until she was about 7. And after that, no matter what I laid out for her to put on, nothing doing. She chose the black tights. She chose the masculine overblouse and shirt. Eventually it was sports shirt with logos that cost a fortune, and she won't take the tags off. Am I breaking up again?
You're limping along. We're getting.
Anyway, it's very interesting to live with somebody who is a girl, but not like any other girl.
Yeah.
And her only heroes are girls. And they're flamboyant beyond belief. They're huge, larger than life, worldwide superstars. And she plans outings with them in her head and all sorts of things. But she's pure. It's completely innocent. Innocent actually beyond our comprehension, because she doesn't have urges at all.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. It's phenomenal to live around. When you live around someone without desirous urges, other than a chocolate cake or when's my next birthday, it's an extraordinary thing. You just feel like this desire filled being day and night, because those feminine or masculine urges are not there at all. And yet, attraction is still there. But usually it's attraction to what she wants to feel, or what she wants to look up to or admire in somebody. But it's not for a result. I mean, I could go on for a month here, but it's a fascinating situation to live with this asexual person with a deliberate disguise, quite deliberate disguise. And picks who she'll communicate with, because she wants to communicate with people who will engage with her on her level. It's very unusual.
You have to put your own sheets back on. So they're just sitting there.
Oops. Somebody is coming on the airwaves. Beautiful though.
Yeah, very interesting.
Franny, she's darling, and you've taken such good care of her.
Well, at this point, she's so sequential, it's hard to know at my age who's taking care of whom.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Tony?
I think Marion was waiting.
Megan?
Okay. Thank you. This is such a vast subject. I appreciate everybody's comments. So I'm going to just take a few minutes to share my life experience, because without going into any of the philosophies or anything, because I was born in the Midwest way back long time ago, in the 30s. And so, boy, were the division of, male, female so distinctly defined. So I grew up in all of that. And I've done some teaching, with kids, and where the young kids, they all were already, wanting to know you had to introduce yourself in using the right gender thing, he, she, they, or whatever. I said, I'm a he, I'm a she, he, her, whatever. But anyway, so I've been immersed in everything. However, when I grew up, girls could not wear pants to school. And kids these days are just shocked. I could not wear long pants during the snow time to walk to school. So I had my little dress on and my coat and my socks and my shoes and my little bare legs getting all cold, because when I got to be a preteen, I didn't want to have those baggy snow pants on because I was a girl and I wanted to look attractive. So everything was about the girl looking attractive, and you had to do everything to look attractive. And the men had the power. So this is no surprise for anybody else. This is all my history. So then, moving fast forward, I always had a spark in me. I always had a rebellious spark in me. So my conflict was, I'm trying to fit in to be the girly, and I just did everything different in my family's life. And so when I came to New York, and I'd gone to Europe on a bike trip, and when nobody was biking anywhere, and I did all those kinds of things. So then when I got to New York, lo and behold, at some point came the women's movement. And that was right up my alley, and my friends, and we all did that whole thing of throwing our bras away and wearing the construction boots, we called them back then, and our, turtlenecks and whatever. And we just rebelled against everything that was the feminine coming down on you to suppress us. So I have 2 kids, and I raised them as lovingly and as possible without a lot of sexism. So then, I still, because as Baba says, in the discourse is the psychological is spiritual also. So in my psychological work, I was always trying to please the man and be subservient. And so I had some past life experiences, and all my past life experiences were as women. And so at some point, I realized this life was about resolving a lot around the images about being a woman, because I got no experiences in my past lives about men. And the men that I knew here, like my husband, who became an ex-husband, I'd been married to him before, and I had to come back and be with him. And my brother also, I'd been married to him. And so I had a lot revealed to me about what I had to overcome about giving my power over to men, because in those past lives, they determined what I did with the money, they determined what I wore, everything. And in one life, I died very young as a woman because I didn't know how to get away except die young, early in that marriage. So here is all of this, a lot of support. So now I'm not going to go into much more because everything keeps evolving. And I keep evolving. But now when I am in a room, or I go into a room with COVID, I haven't been doing this too much with people, I sort of don't feel I'm looking through the eyes of male or female. I feel I'm looking through more the eyes of spirit. And I don't have so much of a checklist on myself, like how do I appear to someone else? And I've resolved a lot of the issues about giving my power over to men. So that's where I am. And I know in spirit, because I've had the experience, there are no men and women. There's male and female energies, there's yin and yang, but there are no men and women there. So
Yeah.
the main duality here. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I've got quite some stories about waking up through the women's movement. Yes.
Yeah. Very well said, Marion. Yeah.
Tony, you want to go?
Okay, yeah. So this has provoked a lot of thoughts in me about the thing I wanted to talk about. Ultimately comes down to courage. If you are integrating into your own wholeness on these things, but I was born into an Italian American family. Boys are a certain way, girls are a certain way, and they're cute and pretty, and boys do what they're supposed to do, and if they don't, they get hit for it or whatever. But my father died when I was 9. And so I grew up, and he had cancer for 2 years, so he was not able to be as strong to push that too much. And so growing up, I remember spending a lot of time at home, and my mother, her girlfriends from around the corner would come, and they would have coffee and cake, and it was like, in retrospect, it was kind of like listening to birds in the trees. And it was lovely and it was wonderful to be around. And I've always appreciated women just because of that. There's sort of that energy is, I have a past life pretty much recollection where I was very much in love with beauty. So, and I still have that. But when I was in fifth grade, we were in the most gifted class in elementary school in New York City. And oh, that's another thing. And so I always had respect for women's intelligence and opinions because they were all really smart. Some were smarter than I, some weren't. But it was like, but in fifth grade we had a rather unbalanced woman teacher who told my mother that I should, and I was acting out a bit because she was a horrible teacher, and told my mother that because my father had just died, I was lacking a strong male role model and I could grow up to be homosexual. And I'm not quite sure I even understood what that was. But she said something had to be done about it, which of course made it real. And when I was still in Cub Scout age, they put me in the Boy Scouts. And there are stories, and I'm not going into them. But what happened is, on the other hand, there was this enjoyment of women. The Irish lady who watched me when I was 3 years old, the young woman who I fell in love with. And then when I went to India and met Mani, she was like that Irish woman who took care of me when I was little, that girlfriend who married someone else, and Baba, all wrapped into one. There was just so much love. But so I'm not sure how this all will tie together. It does in my mind. It takes a lot of courage. People would say to me, women would say, men are like this and they're like that, but not you, of course. And I'm thinking, well, what's the matter with me? I'm very much a man. My desires are very male. They're very, towards women, my attractions. So to be open enough, as you know me now, to express my feelings freely, and not be concerned, not that I have anything about being gay if I was, but I'm not, that it takes an awful lot of courage to be willing to be an expressive person, male or female, who is expressing the fullness of their being, including both of those aspects. And I think that keeps a lot of people from doing it, because they're going to be looked at. A lot of people look at me as kind of like, that's weird the way he expresses himself. But it takes courage. It takes a lot of
I
Luckily,
like it, Tony.
Luckily, you're Italian.
That helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but that could also take me in the other, other direction. Da, 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 da. Finished.
Yeah, thank you.
Ralph, you had your hand raised.
I did, and I changed my mind, but I was really undecided. The thought came to me that it seemed that Mara, in films we see of Mara, in pictures with Baba, that I get the impression that Mara holds her own with Baba. But then we also know that she lives exclusively for Baba. But when they're together, it's just what do you say, kind of mind-blowing how natural she is and how loving with Baba. And how Baba responds to it in a very appropriate manner.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking, well, not everybody's matched up, nor is it easy to be make things work, to adjust. Baba says the right adjustment to others is a key to happiness. And I had one other thing to say, but I better consider it some more before I touch on it.
Okay.
I'm not sure where it goes. All right, Jai Baba, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cindy?
Hello, wonderful people. Hello, Jeff and everyone.
Yeah.
I'm rarely
Great to see
up
you.
for. It's in the dark. I was about to get into bed. I normally, when I have difficulty sleeping, I will go to Baba Zoom recordings and listen to discussions, Jeff, that you do in various different groups, whether it be Sunday Night Chat or Effort and Grace. And when I found myself in this place this evening, I remembered about this specific one because I sent it to my youngest child. My youngest child identifies as non-binary, trans, queer, and goes by plural pronouns, they and them. And I sent that to my youngest, and if they were available, they were going to come on today, but I don't see David James on the list. I'm really grateful for this because I think when I was reading through what Baba had said in the email that you sent, Jeff, and I was thinking of what I'm doing in my own personal life and thinking about this whole lifetime, I would say that my most rat bastardly sanskaras have to do with this business of being a woman and in relationship with men. And I watched my mom, my judgment, cower to my father our whole entire young life. And I remember thinking to myself, I will never be dependent on a man like that and go back after all of that she went through. And by the way, my dad's still in the body, my mom's not. He's fantastic. All of us is healed. They had their karma and all of that. But in that kind of thing as a child, when you say, I'll never be like that, it tends you get to be like that. And I have been realizing more and more and growing in experience that as strong as I thought I was a corporate litigator, and now I do all sorts of really amazing stuff in my life. There has been a part of me that always thought that I wasn't enough, that I was not secure, not stable, not lovable, not powerful if I didn't have a relationship with a man. And just recently, after my most recent breakup, after a couple dating after the end of my marriage, I feel like Baba has relieved me from that obsession that I had starting at 10. I mean, I was asked at 7 years old, Cindy, who are you going to marry when you grow up? And I would say, Jesus Christ or my daddy, because who was I going to marry? I was 7. Like, who's thinking about marriage? Well, you can't marry either of them. I'm like, well, they're the only two good ones, I think. But patterned at such a young age as to, do you have a boyfriend? Why don't you have a boyfriend? Oh, you have a fiance? Do you have a husband? Do you have this? Do you have that? That it was so ingrained, and certainly coming from past lifetimes, of my inherent inadequacy and literal like danger if I weren't in relationship. And as I said, I feel like Baba has released that obsession or that distortion, the way some friends of mine who are recovering alcoholics say that God released them from the obsession for alcohol. And I keep thinking of, I had the opportunity to visit the Sufi Center in Walnut Creek, and the evolutionary journey sculpture that goes floor to floor up through this great staircase from the differentiated forms of creation, the evolutionary journey, then into the human, and then into the androgynous or genderless one. And I think the Baba calendar for this month, I've just been loving just reading, love the one in the many, not the many in the one. That is, I think, merging us back to the genderless one. I say this is kind of crass. I've said this for decades. Whatever the infinite greater God is, there is no external or internal genitalia. I believe it is a oneness, and for the purpose of creation, differentiates into active and receptive, or masculine and feminine. And in this moment, being here with all of you live, I feel so grateful for the continued presence of the Baba community to help me grow in freedom and in truth. And I'm very touched by Baba helping me remember tonight to get on. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you, Cindy. Great to hear from you. We've missed you.
You.
Really.
Peter. All right, hi everybody. I was wondering, I saw that there was a reference in Beams. I'm in Discourse. Would it be of any value that there's a chapter called Reincarnation and Karma, Part 5, the need for male and female incarnations? Is there any value in reading that? I'd be happy to. I don't know if
Well,
anyone...
it's about 4 pages, right, or 5 pages.
4 pages.
That might be a little much as it gets here after here on the West Coast. East Coast. It's after. See if you can find one paragraph that would be. But that would be. It would take you 15 minutes to read it. But
Okay.
see if you find something there.
All right, see what I can do.
Marta, have you got anything that comes to mind?
Hey guys, hi.
Yeah.
Well, my mind's trying to find somewhere to land, and I don't find a place to land. The only thing that I did pick up from your email here, and I wrote it down. It says, Baba says, in the case of man, that he tries to understand a woman, not through eyes of male, but through an imaginative reaching out toward what the woman feels herself to be in her own personal experience. He tries to understand a woman not through the eyes of the male, but through the imaginative reaching out toward what the woman feels herself to be in her own personal experience. And I read that and I'm going like, how? I don't even know what I am in my own personal experience. How could a guy know what we are in our personal experience? Come on. If somebody asked me, Marta, what are you in your own personal experience? Well, I would have to think on that quite a while. And how can I expect anyone else to know it if I don't know it myself? So that's one place where I just immediately got hooked up on what Baba said here. The other thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
The other thing that comes up whenever there's a discussion about the opposite sex, and is that I want to it's an observation, my own personal observation, that I feel all of this, the new generations of not having a label, or females changing to male, males changing to female, all of that we're talking about. I think that it's an amazing a bridge between established roles, male, female, and where we're going as one. Because the young people, and that more young than I am anyway, that whole couple of generations, they're fluid. And I think that it's moving towards a fluidity of oneness rather than the traditional roles of masculine and feminine. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't know if I understand it, and my heart goes out to them. I think it's a difficult bridge to hold, to make between the two. But I do want to acknowledge that I think it's a very evolved situation that's happening. It's moving towards oneness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that line, the imaginative reaching out to experience what a woman experiences in her own personal experience, that takes a real interest in the opposite sex. You're actually interested, what makes them tick, rather than, slap some kind of opinion about it, but actually be able to track their how they go about things, and so that to me is the key to feeling what the opposite sex experiences by following them very closely with interest in everything, not with and eventually not through the eye of the male, but through what Marion was talking about, looking through the eye of the spirit. You know, that it's not dividing things in to male and female. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Rainy?
So I love being a woman. I never really thought about it being anything else. I'm an only child. And
I couldn't picture you as anything else either.
I didn't think there was anything else. And my mum was only 19 years older than me. So I was convinced there was really nothing else. I mean, there was Dad, but he was a boy, you know. he was one of them. And when I got to India and met Mara, I have to say, I knew I was right. There was only one thing to be, and that was a woman. And Mary even said to me once, some chap did something silly, and she said, "I don't understand that. I've never been a man." And I said, "No, I've never been a man either." And the two of us giggled. I mean, it's and I might add, I've never been single. I've always been married as long as I can remember to 3 different amazing male Baba lovers, all with very strong acceptance of their feminine aspects of their natures. So
Yeah.
it's a muddle. It's a total muddle. But I did find a ghazal where Francis starts out with a ghazal where it's only about women, and then halfway through he flips and he makes the ghazal about men, and by the end we're all one.
Read it. Yeah.
Called Water, from Industai Singh, number 47. Water, by being in love with death, gives life to all things. Water, by being in love with death, gives life to all things. Desiring absorption in the ocean, it flows and it sings. The song of water is reflected in greenness. It assumes incredible tallness in men's hearts where it perfectly blooms. It's so docile it goes wherever you conduct it, so raging that it sweeps aside all that would obstruct it. Its nature, water, is female. It always flows in curves. Try to grasp it, it eludes you. Respect it, it serves. It occupies the smallest place, yet spreads everywhere. Its boundlessness can only be expressed in a tear. As water are the lovers of God. As water are the lovers of God, tall in humility, forever passing away in eternal stability. Falling ever at the beloved's feet, they spring up in their fall, and springing, singing like giant flowers, they shed perfume on all. Now in this ghazal, Francis is going on about water and its curves and its femininity. Then halfway through, he goes into they, them, and man. And then he goes into beyond that. Because we're lovers, we're tall in humility, forever passing away in eternal stability. And then we're falling at the beloved's feet as no sex at all, as the divine human searching for the divine beloved and his feet. It's a magnificent piece, number 46.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we'll have just 2 more. I think we're
Risha?
getting kind of late.
I just want to say that I know two people of my generation who are now women and who once were men. And they're very troubled souls. They're very troubled. They're really unhappy. One of them is a Baba lover, one isn't. And I don't know, maybe the next generation is going to handle it better than those of my generation. But they are really extremely troubled, and they're not happy people. So I really don't know what to think about it.
Yeah.
It's not all roses.
Yeah, there just isn't enough acceptance of that, I'm sure, and so you're left alone. But that's probably going to change over time.
Rich, yes. Rich?
Colorado. Here we are from Colorado. 7,000 feet up.
It's me.
Richie Sanders?
Yeah, my name is Rich. And while listening, the thought of Erich came to my mind, and a story of some beautiful woman was in the Darshan line or something to see Baba. And Baba, of course, knew what Erich was thinking, but he had some lustful thoughts towards this woman. She was young and very beautiful. And Baba looked up at him and says, "What are you thinking?" Something like that, you know. And it just, I mean, Erich was not what you think of as an ordinary guy, you know, but and that's one thought. The other thought is, I had a friend who used to say that he studied astrology, so Mars, Venus, and all this, but he used to say that women tend to be more we, us together, and men tend to be more I, you know. So I think in my case, my first thought is normally selfish. What does it do me, you know? But the third thought is, the way I experience women has always been chaotic and confusing to me, I think. There's always been a lot of the sexual part, but what I've realized more recently, I guess you say, is that how I experience myself is usually some reflection of what I see in women. But what I mean by that, myself as a male. And then I've grown up a little bit, so I try to look in the eyes of women so that it allows me to see them as a female person, not just as what my desires might be or something like that. But I have a few more lifetimes to go on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's Baba says overcoming of the sex duality is overcoming most of the whole problem of duality. There's a line from Rumi where he says, a handsome man or a beautiful woman, in the end, wind up ugly old donkeys. From angel to eyesore in a few years. In human beings, beauty is only borrowed. Bit by bit, God recalls the loan. I've fallen in love with beauty itself. I've quit falling in love with skin and bones. You know, I thought for a while there we had Ferris Day, but Ferris Day. Let's see if she can read end with Ferris Day. Can you read one of those ghazals that Hafiz wrote on the night of realization?
Sure. I will.
These are her translations.
Seek one. I made a note in my list of which ones they are. One is 173 and
187.
187 is the other one. And one is 20. We haven't read that one for a while.
Okay, go for it.
All right.
Then we'll have a few moments of silence.
Okay, Baba. By the grace of Allah, what fortune I possess tonight, because my beloved suddenly came to me tonight. I prostrated as soon as I saw his beautiful face. Thank God I have good deeds to my credit tonight. The seedling of my patience for union has borne fruit tonight. I have finally received my great fortune tonight. I have won the royal lottery. My awakened destiny has arrived into my hands tonight. With an unstoppable, self-perpetuating determination, I am taking off the veil of ignorance tonight. Like Mansur's Darut, I am God after his death. I too will do the same if you kill me tonight. I am the deserving one. You have the blessings. Give a well-deserved tithe. I am agreeable tonight. I am afraid Hafiz may be annihilated from the bliss I am experiencing tonight.
Let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba. Thank you all for all you added to this subject.
Thank you, Jeff. It was great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for your shares.
Yeah. So men, work on your feminine side. Women, work on your masculine side.
Can I
power tools?
Can I
Get
jump
out the power tools, Rainey.
Sorry?
Get out the power tools.
Yeah. Yeah, take out the chainsaw and the tractor mower.
I am clueless, absolutely clueless. Sorry.
Can I jump in for just a second?
Yeah.
When you mentioned that our previous speaker was from Colorado, I'm wondering if this is someone who I haven't seen for like 52 years. Were you once known by the name of Harry Harmony? Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that was me, Tony.
Back
Wow.
in New York.
Well, good to see you.
Yeah. I was in India in 72 that one time.
Yep.
That was it with the society, that was all.
Singing When They Begin. When.
Yeah.
I remember you rehearsing. When
Yeah.
they be, when.
Yeah, that's
when
it. When they begin, the begin.
Yeah. But
What
he was
Baba does
also
here.
What a voice.
he
Who are
also
you?
went
What
to,
voice?
I'm
And he
not
also-
really a singer, but I
Oh,
must
yes,
have.
you are. You just don't think you are.
Yeah.
Jeff, what's going to happen when you go to India?
Well, Margie, she's going to bring a couple of things to mention. One is that Stu Baker has done these heart-centered meditations that are quite short, but they're very powerful. He's going to do it on the second Wednesday. No, I think it's the second Tuesday of the month. Oh, second Wednesday of the month at 7:00. So that's very wonderful, and I think the first one is maybe the 15th or something like that. So keep that in mind.
But
And
Jeff,
then and the other thing I'm thinking of is that I've Margie Connor, she's volunteered to do these late night chats, and she's going to bring a lot of the young people in and get their experience of Baba. Maybe how they came to Baba, but how they experienced Baba in their lives. And so that should be real nice to, she's going to do that. And if you want to hear, they'll probably get into some of the stuff we're talking about as well. But yeah, that should be, I would like to be there for those because
If I hear that Darbar has pretty good internet service over there, or not the Darbar, the Meher Nazar. They have.
I'll see.
You can have a cup of cappuccino and sit there and
yeah.
do your internet.
That would be nice too.
Jeff?
But yes.
Jeff, how long this is Paula. How
Yeah.
long are you going for?
I'm leaving on the 11th, and I'm coming back on I think the 19th of November.
November. Oh, you're leaving on October 11th.
Yeah.
Okay, and no. Okay. Yeah. And then I want to tell you, can I just tell you one thing?
Yeah.
Jeff, sometimes I miss this live a lot, but in the middle of the week, I often watch the, watch this. I'm going to call it your show, but it's so wonderful. But I am so grateful. I have so many times wanted to call you or get your number to tell you how much I appreciate this episode every week. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. I mean,
I want to tell you that I don't take it lightly. It's just very rich and full, and I've often wanted to tell you that.
Oh,
how
well,
much
thank
I
you.
appreciate, and I appreciate you,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, well,
But-
and everybody chimes in. These are all topics, issues
No,
that
it's
we're
so
all.
no, it's so fabulous.
Yeah.
But I just got to a real appreciation of just you also all these years. Just have given me so much.
You're watching my slow decline. over the
Yeah.
years.
Anyway, bye-bye.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Baba.
Well,
And
anyway,
likewise,
folks,
many people who don't even come, they see it afterwards.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people.
yeah, I'm very
who see it
surprised
after.
that people from all over, they'll come to the center and they follow these things. They hear all of you people, and they have certain ones they like to hear, and yeah,
Hear me prattling on, right?
yeah. No, okay. Well,
Good night, everybody. Jay
good
Baba.
night.
Hey, Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Our Mayor Baba.
Jay. Oh, where's Nasreen?
Yeah, Jay Baba.
Oh yeah, Nasreen isn't here. Oh, that's.
Trisha
Did we
can do it. She's in the back of the Beyond. She can do it.
Who's that?
What am I doing?
Avatar Mayor Baba Kijay.
Avatar, Mayor Baba,
TJ. Avatar.
Mayor Baba, TJ.
Avatar, Mayor Baba.
TJ.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Alex.